Light of maiden disciples, we LED by Christ. Tune in, y'all, we shining so bright. C.W. Stevens, he the host with the vision. Bringing truth and light, let's complete the mission.
And that's exactly what we're here to do. Welcome to the LED podcast, where faith meets culture and discipleship shines. I'm your host, C.W. Stevens. Let's step into the light and be led. Every journey begins with the spark. Every disciple is called to shine. This is the LED Spotlight. Today's episode is a tender and powerful episode which crosses barriers, spiritual, cultural. Today we're talking about adoption, not just legally, but gospel-centered kind of adoption that reshapes families and reflects the kingdom. And so what I like to do is I like to introduce my guests and allow them to introduce themselves and explain their come to Jesus moment. What did it look like for both of you whenever you first became Christian? And then, if you're like myself, my point in becoming a Christian and then taking the call of the gospel seriously were two different moments in my life. So introduce yourself and tell us about your come to Jesus moments.
I'm Jennifer Locklin, and I was baptized real early at 12 at church camp. My dad was preaching at a church that was pretty small in Oklahoma, and so the whole church went to camp, and so it was a family camp, and I got baptized while I was there, so I was young. But my come to Jesus really came later, after high school, and I made a lot of choices through high school and in my early 20s that took me away from family and other things. And so I kind of had to hit rock bottom before I made a big change and huge change and turn things around and decided to take my walk seriously.
I'm Quinton Locklin. I didn't have a preacher as a dad like Jennifer did, but was raised in church my whole life. I was also baptized at church camp. I was 16 though, so I was a little bit older in that I was already driving and I felt like I fully knew what I was doing at 16. And I think I just realized, I've known what I need to do, and I just haven't answered his call to be baptized and to do that. But I think I also, when I became 16 and became a little more independent, my life became church. I grew up in a pretty broken home. My parents were married and divorced multiple times, 4 times each actually. And so that was the home that I grew up in. And so church was my way away in a way. It was my getting with friends, doing good stuff, and I thrived on that. And I had a loving set of parents, very much so. But it was a consistent thing for me that I felt was something that was always in me. And I was that way all the way through college when Jennifer and I met. And we met at the Church Christ Student Center on the campus of Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas.
And so the whole idea behind this episode was sparked whenever I was riding with you guys. We had a concert at Austin Eastside Church of Christ.
That's right.
And you guys told me your story. You gave me your testimony, and I'm just like, man, that's a story that has got to be heard. And I was inspired by it, and I think others will be too. And so I want to start off by asking the question. Tell the listeners how your journey towards adoption began, and was it something that you both always wanted? Was it something that you always foresaw?
Well, we had the idea that we would start trying to have kids around 3 to 5 years after being married, and that wasn't working. And I don't know why I just kept getting this call. I kept seeing signs, billboards and commercials for foster children and things like that. So my idea was, well, we could foster while we're still waiting. we could at least be doing something good with this time that we have where, we're not getting what we want necessarily, but we could be doing something.
Well, and at that point, so a little later, we went through 4 rounds of in vitro trying to have our own children.
Right.
So we actually started fostering before we even started all of that in vitro stuff, several years before we actually started that. I I think if I remember right, you and I were talking about fostering kids even before we got married.
We had talked about it a little bit. I don't know how seriously we had really considered it, but I mean, we had talked about the idea of filling that need. But really, we didn't think much about it. I don't think after we got married initially and started trying to figure out, our own story, our own family. And then when that wasn't happening
On our time.
on our time, we started talking about, fostering here in Bell County.
So we were married in 2000 and we got our first set of foster kids in December of 2004.
Yeah.
So it was about 3 to 4 years, and about 3 or 4 years in is when we started trying to have kids ourselves. But that's when we decided to go through the Bell County, um, you know, foster and adoption agency. Well, I mean, it's just CPS really.
Right.
And we went through all the CPS classes to become foster parents and all that stuff. And that's our intent was to foster, not to adopt. It
Right.
was just to foster.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll tell about how we got foster kids the very first time if you want.
Yeah.
Uh, we had gone through all of the training and we were just waiting on background checks to come in because they have to send off fingerprints and background checks and all this stuff. And so I believe we had gotten all of that back. And we're just waiting on paperwork. That's all we're waiting on. And we had a random call about this time on a Wednesday. It was about noon. And they said, we know you haven't gotten your paperwork, but we can bring it with us. Would you be open to taking 2 little kids that need to stay only about 2 to 3 weeks? I think
No,
that's
only a week, she said.
1 week. 1 week. Yeah,
Yeah.
1 week. And their dad is going to come from another state, but they just need a place to stay for 1 week, and we'll bring the paperwork with you. And we're like, okay. I mean, we weren't ready. We weren't right.
Yeah.
We didn't have rooms ready or anything.
And they said, okay. I said, how long until you're there? Like, until you're here? Well, 30 minutes.
Wow.
And they were there in about 10 minutes, knocking on the door
Yeah.
with 2 little kids, a brother and a sister, African American, garbage bags full of clothes, and plopped them off at our house on our front porch and said, here you go.
I remember
You sign
stopping.
these paperwork. Here you go.
I stopped the lady as she was, signed the paperwork and she was about out the door. And I said, wait, can I have a car seat or something? And she was like, no, you got to go get one.
Oh boy.
I mean, we weren't even ready. We had no idea we were approved or anything
Yeah.
until 10 minutes ago.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was about to ask you. I was going to ask you, how did God confirm, okay, let's do it? It seems like it's that
day.
moment.
It was on a Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon.
Goodness.
And we had kids within that phone call. We had kids in our house in 10 minutes.
Wow.
And
And
we
we
ended
were
up
ready.
having them for 2 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Their
I know,
dad
that was 2 months.
had trouble with finances and getting down here.
Didn't have a vehicle, having to haul a bus.
Yeah.
Those kids loaded up on a bus to go all the way back to like Virginia or something.
Oh,
like
wow.
that. And then right after that was we had about a month off, and then we got our 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 children we adopted, all sibling group.
Yes.
Youngest are 2 boys, and the oldest one's a girl. And we got the 2 boys. They were almost 2 and almost 4 about a month later in December of 2004.
Mm.
And
So when you have, because I know how I am. Whenever we have our kids, we come into, we go and visit different churches. As a matter of fact, we went to another church last week. We were on vacation, and when you go into a church, you're like, okay, everybody, we give the talk. Hey, you're gonna sit on the same row because we got teens now, and they like to sit on different rows. We're gonna sit on the same row. You guys need to make sure that you have your Bibles. Don't turn your phone on because I don't want the phone going off, and then my kids are the one, at a random church. How hard was it, or how easy was it for the church communities that you're a part of to be accepting of the fact that you came in 1 week without kids, now you have kids? How was that?
They were extremely accepting. In fact, they threw us a baby shower for fostering,
Nice.
and they brought us a bunch of just things we might need with different age groups of kids. One of the men in our church, Mickey Blanks, organized a group to come over, and they built a huge playhouse complex in our backyard.
Nice.
So, I mean, it was an overwhelmingly positive response from our church, and they always greeted the kids, and us. Anytime we were there, they were just very welcoming.
Wow.
At that time, we had grown a young marrieds group. None of us had had children. We were just brand new marrieds.
Mhm.
And we started out with about 3 couples, and we grew it to about 30 couples
Wow.
of just young marrieds. And we were all starting to have kids,
Mhm.
right? And so when we got the ones that we've got now, actually, I think it was almost a year later when we had all 3 of them is when they came over. But our young marrieds group came behind us 100%. I bet we had 30 or 40 people in our backyard building this playscape.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was in the beginning. Kiana and Alyssa were there.
Oh, was that who it was?
Mhm.
Oh, then it was in the very beginning. No, I take that back then. I'm
Yeah.
wrong. So, but it was our young marrieds group that came behind us, and they built this massive playscape because they knew we were going to foster and possibly foster other kids.
Right.
Our kids grew up on the playscape.
Let's normalize baby showers for foster kids. I've never heard that concept before. Did they just come up with that, or was that a
Well, they knew we were wanting to have children, and
They knew we go through the classes.
they knew we'd been going through the classes and all of that, and they knew we would need to be ready
right?
for a variety of things. And
Yes.
so they just threw us a shower, and it was like a
Yeah.
potluck of things. It's not like they could just buy all baby things or
Right.
things like that. So it was really interesting and very kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Like, so that's what I was going to ask about too was if beforehand did you talk to a preacher or an elder and like, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing, or
No.
No,
no?
no, we came up with this
Yeah.
idea on our own. Yeah.
That's the
Well, and the other part of that is I was working in Austin at the time. I'd been working there for 3 years, so I was driving back and forth to Northwest Austin, and I was a technical recruiter. And I got laid off of that job after 3 years. And so that's when we decided, well, now's the time to start trying to have kids. And so I was not working for the first time in a long time. And that was one of the other reasons why we wanted to be doing something, but doing something more than just a job, something that meant something.
Yeah. You look at these unexpected ways in which God blesses, right? Um, he shows up through this adoption process, right? He shows up through this process. What are some of the ways in which God revealed himself from the beginning to the end of the kids being in the home with you, once they're adults? What are some of the ways because I remember listening to your story, but what are some of those ways that stick out to you that God revealed himself through the adoption process, through having children come into your home that weren't yours, but then became yours?
It just always led us back to God's adoption of us
Mm-hmm.
and what that means to us. And it became a lot more clear when we started the process of adopting and fostering kids. Of course, it means something different, but I think it really hit home that, we're all adopted by God. And so there's no reason we shouldn't take care of others.
Amen.
The way that we found out we were going to adopt these kids, I think, in a way. So we were just fostering these kids. They were going every week to
Supervised visitation.
supervise visitation with their mother, right? So their mom had these 3 kids very, very young. She had all 3 kids before she was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
She had the first one, she was 14. So
Ooh.
14, 17, 19 is how old she was,
Yeah.
roughly. And she had some problems, mental problems, drug problems, things like that. And so every week, these foster kids would have to go and see their mom. She was going through all of the every hoop that CPS was making her do to get these kids back. She was doing, and so that was weekly visitation, and we would have to take the kids back. And Jennifer was doing that because it was during the day. But they eventually asked Jennifer to come into the visits to mentor the mother
Oh, wow.
of what and how to do, because they saw such big improvements with the kids after they came to our home.
Yeah.
Right.
Most foster families, unfortunately, had a really bad attitude toward the birth parents. You know, that they were low life or, you know, horrible people. And of course, there were some that, you know, did terrible things. But I just decided that for those visitations, I wouldn't just drop off and leave like the other parents were doing. I was going to stay and sit in the waiting room
And you would even visit with
and
them
visit with the family.
before the
And
kids and mom got together.
because
Right?
I just kept feeling this pull that they're people too, you know, they're people that made mistakes just like I've made mistakes in my life.
Yeah.
And it happened to affect their children. And so I could at least treat them like another human being and just get to know them. And so I did. So every Monday we'd sit down and I'd wait and they'd come in the waiting room and, you know, we would have to wait then on the CPS worker to come get them and take them back. So there was some time sitting there. And so at first it was hard, you know, they didn't really want to talk to me. And so I'm good with sitting in silence. So
Hmm.
I did. And then over time, they really just started talking to me. And, you know, I would just tell them, you know, the kids did really great this week. I'd bring some of the things they did in school and show them. And so it kind of started breaking down some of the barriers. And we were able to just have conversation.
Right.
And I think that led to what you're
Yeah.
about to talk
So
about.
ultimately, we get a phone call one day and said, and the CPS worker said, "Is there any way that you two could come up to the CPS office? Their mother would like to talk to you."
Mm.
And we said, "Yeah, I guess so. Yeah." So we come up there, and she asked us point blank to our face, "Would you adopt my boys?" Because at that point, we didn't have her daughter; we just had the boys.
Wow.
"Would you adopt my boys? Because I can't do what y'all are doing, and they're improving beyond what I have the capability of doing."
That's powerful.
And so, seeing God and all of that, I felt like that was a moment that happened.
Yeah.
She was severely mentally ill. She's schizophrenic. And so if she was on her medication, she could live a normal life, but she frequently got off of it. And then it was just this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So their sister was in another foster home. So we had the boys, the brothers, and the sister was within another foster home, and they would come together for the weekly visitations, right? So the sister was going to be adopted by her aunt, the mother's sister,
Yeah.
but the aunt said she couldn't take the boys, so we knew they were going to be split.
Yeah.
And so they were split for a while, the whole time they were in foster care. And so we agreed to adopt the boys, knowing they were going to be split.
Right.
And then I guess it was about 8 months later, something around there, the CPS called us and said, "Hey, the aunt is not able to take care of the daughter. Would you consider taking her too?"
Wow.
And so we saw it as an opportunity to keep all three kids together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we did.
That portion of the story, it just, first off, what I'm seeing there is the opportunity to disciple, because that's what was happening with the visits with the mother, which is,
Very much so.
that's amazing. And God prepping the opportunity, his weaving beneath the surface of all things is, that's amazing to hear that you had the opportunity. But then also the mother's heart, you know, being able to be transformed. And it's like, I was thinking about it. Matter of fact, I was reading this today because it was the Bible verse for the day. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs 16:3. And I started dwelling on that, and it's just like, you guys committed what you were doing to God, and you were being Christ to people, And all of a sudden, God came in and made it into something altogether different. Because when I talk to people about fostering, their stories don't sound like y'all stories. It does not.
Well, we didn't have all glory days.
I
I
get
mean,
that.
we had some hard ones too.
I get
but
that.
It,
Yeah.
it there was a it was a crazy chain of events, and we were never expecting to adopt these kids,
Yeah.
and especially not expecting to adopt the sister who was going to be adopted by her aunt,
Mm-hmm.
and then get a random phone call,
Yeah.
and here she is too.
In fact, in that office visit with their mom, I remember saying, "Are you sure? You know, they need to stay with you. You've done all the work. You've
Mm-hmm.
worked really hard." And you know, she just said, "No, I can't give them the life you can give them."
Mm.
And I think she realized she wasn't going to be stable, consistently stable. And
But I think that's also God talking to her heart
mhm.
to realize, for the sake of these kids' lives,
Yeah.
you're not the one.
Yeah.
You know,
Which that's what being Christ-like is all about. It's this self-giving love, placing others before yourself. And I see that in that.
so I commend her for doing that.
Yeah.
It was a hard choice.
I commend you guys for saying yes, because you didn't have to say yes.
Yeah.
You did not have to say yes. So I wanted to ask about the challenges of adoption, in addition to the benefits that you saw. And usually, what I do is I do a top 5 of something, but I want to do a top 3 of each one.
You can go with the challenges first, and then the benefits.
You're going to stump me here.
No, I already know the top benefit.
Yes.
Let's start with the benefits. Top benefit. I was 44 when I became an empty nester.
Nice.
Which
Yes.
in 2025 is, oh, well, it was 2021, I
Yes.
guess, right? Is I adopted a 2, 4, and 7-year-old, and I jumped ahead by 2, 4, and 7 years compared to all my friends.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So at 44, my youngest one graduated high school, and we were empty nesters. I was 44. So, like, yeah, okay, I like
Yeah.
this.
That
This
just
is all right.
reminded me. I'll be 52 when my youngest is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And so there's that benefit. I think another benefit that a lot of people do not realize, and they just don't know this, is that our kids were in CPS.
Mhm.
All 3 of our kids had free tuition and fees to any state school in the state of Texas.
Also vocational school.
Any vocational school paid for.
Wow.
And there's no time limit. Like, I don't know if that's still the case. It's been a long time since we've adopted and everything like that. Also, we had all of our kids in counseling quite a bit. Our oldest one for sure. And all that was paid for. All their health benefits were paid for until they were 18. And then because we adopted a sibling group, biracial sibling group, we were paid not only as foster parents, they pay you when you're foster parents. They actually paid us until those kids were 18 years old. We got monthly
Stipend.
for each child every month until they were 18. And I don't say that so that people go out and try to adopt kids for the sake of money.
It's not that much money.
It was like $400. It was like $400 a month per kid.
Yeah.
It was like $1,200 a month, right, till they turned 18. But I think people say, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't. Well, I'm going to tell you, we haven't had to pay a dime for any of our kids to go to school.
Yeah.
You know,
And their mental health care and their
all
physical
of that
health care.
it was all paid for. You know, so there's that benefit. Now I said 2. You got a benefit.
Well, in our case, it was completing a family we ultimately weren't going to be able to have.
Right.
And we didn't know that at the time. And we took, we talked about that before we said yes to their mom. Like, well, we still want to have biological kids. Is this going to interfere with that? Is this going to cause hardship on our biological kids? You always have all these questions. How's this going to affect our life going forward? And we just ultimately decided we would make it work.
Right.
And so, unbeknownst to us, that wasn't going to happen. And so
they're the only kids we have. I mean, that was the benefit, is we were able to make a family because we decided to do that for ourselves.
And over the years, we've seen, and we've wondered what could have happened to them had we not said yes. Most likely they would have gone to separate people.
Yeah.
And been adopted out by others. Most likely not a sibling group.
Yeah.
So I think it was beneficial for us and them.
Yeah, most definitely. I would say so.
The downsides, you're taking kids, well, at 2, 4, and 7. So Jennifer always, always says we got triplets with opinions.
Right.
Because at 7 years old, believe
Yeah.
me, 7-year-olds got an opinion.
Well, see, that's the fun age for me. 4 and 7, 4 probably up until 11. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. It isn't when you're taking kids that have not been parented well,
Yeah, I get
who
that.
have come out of some pretty horrific things. And we could tell stories about some of the stuff that they came from, the abuse that they had. They're growing up, and what they had was not necessarily fun. It was very much a challenge. And so overcoming the pretty horrific parenting that they had come from, the abuse they had come from, was a major challenge. It was not easy.
Yeah.
It never was easy.
When we were going through classes, I remember we had to, before we signed all our paperwork, there was a big flyer more or less with all the different types of children you could get. For instance, fetal alcohol syndrome child. You had to check the box. Would you accept one of those?
Yes.
And so there were all these lists and lists of varieties of issues they could come with. And so I was checking most of the boxes. Like, I could handle that. Yeah.
Right.
And I remember the caseworker that was doing the training, she saw mine and she said, "No, are you sure?" You know, and, looking back, I was really naive about that, because the issues became so much larger. And I know I'm taking a long time to answer this, but
You
I
good?
think in my mind, I think we could have handled just about anything. But in my mind, I thought that once we got them into our family and we got them, into church and into a routine and into, a normal, healthy life, that they would,
Just come along and grow.
they would come along and grow with us. And to a large degree, they did. And I've lost my, I thought of what I was going to say, but I guess I thought I could change some things in them that ultimately never changed.
And still haven't changed.
Yeah.
And they're all in their 20s now.
Yeah.
That's just part of who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a little hard for me to accept,
Mm-hmm.
I think, inside, if I were to be really honest.
Yeah.
So that was a little hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those challenges, like I said, we had them in counseling. We had our daughter in counseling all the way through her living here, and she struggles with some mental issues as well and things like that. And so, yeah, overcoming some pretty horrific parenting and abuse, much harder than you realize.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But worth it. I mean,
Well worth it. No.
we had a lot of fun from where, 4 years old to 11. There was
Oh yeah.
great fun and great times. And there was a lot of things they didn't remember the majority of it, but it came out in different ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where it was difficult
Yeah.
and sad.
Yeah.
I think another challenge was our oldest two, especially our oldest one, is the lack of connection to us.
Yeah.
Not having a baby that I raised from day one, brought home from the hospital. We never got that.
Yeah.
And so our youngest one is the most connected to us because he was not quite 2 when we got him.
Mm-hmm.
But just to think that a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old may never connect to you because of what they went through in those years for the rest of their life may not connect to you. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hard to think, but that is where we're at.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. It's a
They
challenge.
connected, but it was different,
Yes.
and it was different, and it was hard for me not to compare to other parents and seeing them with their children and wishing I had that
Right.
and wondering why we couldn't make that happen. But it was just, so much is what I did learn is so much happens between the age of birth and 4 years old that it's just
Yeah.
impressed upon their whole
Changes.
psychology.
Yep. That's true. That's true.
I think this is probably more for me than it is for Jennifer, but Jennifer's got dark hair, dark eyes, not me.
Mhm.
I'm blue eyes, white boy, right?
Great hair.
Yeah, well, I got good hair, but I'm definitely white, and our kids are all biracial,
Uh-huh.
and so I look like mom's boyfriend at all times. I know I got odd looks because my daughter, very kinky, curly hair, beautiful hair, tiny, dark feature, olive skin, brown, dark eyes, all that stuff. But I'm walking out of the store with my arm around my daughter,
Yeah.
and I'm getting some creepy looks from people thinking, "What is going on there?" Right?
Yeah.
And so I think we were different. Our family looked different.
Yeah.
They looked a little bit more like Jennifer, but you could tell they didn't come from Jennifer
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
And so I think in some ways that was we got used to it, right? But our family as a whole kind of got some strange looks sometimes,
I
wondering
can imagine.
how did that happen?
Yeah, I
you
can
know,
imagine.
and I know people thought I'm just Jennifer's boyfriend, like I'm aftermath of whatever happened with those
Uh-huh.
kids,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So I do want to ask you, because since I do it with everyone, I gotta ask. All right, I'll do top three for both of you. We have a master class chef, and from what Quentin says, was a baller in sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quentin's a jack of all trades. Let's get a top three list. Your favorite things to cook. And since you're a jack of all trades, give me three. I'm going to ask for maybe quotes to live by or things to help people live life well. Because he's got a wealth of knowledge, and he did not mention he's being humble, but he's also an elder as well. Who wants to go first?
You go first.
People look at me strange when I say this, but my favorite thing to cook and to eat probably is Cajun food. So I love making gumbo and etouffee and things like that. And I just love tweaking that and getting it just right.
She likes spicy too.
I love
Yeah.
spicy food.
It's
And
heartburn for me now.
and I love cake. I've always loved cakes.
Mm.
So I like to make cakes and things like that. I'm trying to think what else. My heritage is Czech, and so I learned to make all of the kolaches and things like that, and so I do enjoy baking things
I
like
did
that.
not know that. I love kolaches. I'm just gonna drop that.
Yeah, her mother's full blood. Her grandmother spoke in broken English,
Mm-hmm.
thick accent,
Mm-hmm.
legit.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I'm going to plug her food blog. So
Yes.
JenniferCooks.com. If you want some good recipes that I can vouch for, JenniferCooks.com.
Yes, and she's got the social media popping right now.
Yeah.
She's putting out videos, so check that out. What platforms are you on with the videos? Is it TikTok,
Instagram, and Facebook.
The light always shines brightest through God's eyes. Now let's pivot and explore how faith meets culture. All right, so this is our kingdom culture section. This is the section where we talk about what does God say about what our culture looks like. And so I'm thinking about this episode this week, and I'm looking at and I'm studying Acts 9 and Acts chapter 10, and we see Peter, who is left Jerusalem and he's tending to a widow who has passed away. He's tending to a tanner, and he's also tending to a paralytic. And all of these people seem to be, the text doesn't necessarily come right out and say it, but based on what we see in chapter 10, they're more likely Jewish people. And so he doesn't mind leaving Jerusalem to travel some 35 miles to go help a paralytic, to go help he raises a widow who has died from the dead. And then he goes and he lives in a house with a tanner who would have made him ritually unclean. But come chapter 10, there is the case of him having this vision, and he sees these unclean things come down on a sheet. He's like, I'm not eating that. And the Bible says that he has the vision 3 times. So it looks like he needs some convincing of it. And he's told that he is supposed to go to the centurion and he's supposed to listen. And Peter, being Peter, when he gets there, he doesn't go there to listen, but he starts talking. And what comes out of his mouth is that it's unlawful for me as a Jewish man to be in the home of someone who is not. And so I look at that, and I still see not only that in the culture and time of Peter, but I also see it in our culture today, in that we all have our barriers that we put up. We all have, whether we do it unwillingly or willingly, we all have worldviews that have been affected by how we're raised, by how we're taught to see the world. And in the case of both of you, we have this world that still wrestles. Well, we live in a culture that still wrestles with race and family norms. You mentioned that walking walking around the store. How do you think your family challenges have reshaped your cultural expectations?
I think it, one, allowed me to see that everybody's broken and everybody is worthy of your time and in an effort in being in community with. I also think so much of our racial differences in terms of just, let's say visiting a culturally different church or things like that. I think it's all based out of fear, not knowing what to expect, feeling like it'll be weird. And I just think that all we have to do is take the step. It's just a step, and God will take you the rest of the way, and there's nothing to be afraid of. That's what, you know, came out to me, is that, there's really nothing to be afraid of. Is there a learning curve? Yeah, but that's not hard.
Right. Yeah.
I think a little bit about, we moved to Houston for a brief time, for about 3 years. So when we moved to Houston, our kids were in elementary school, and I think the oldest one was in middle school. And we went to a brand new church, didn't know a soul, didn't know anybody, had to start over for all 5 of us.
Right.
They had to start over with friends. We had to start over with friends. And Jennifer and I quickly realized at church that we didn't fit in with the folks that were our age, because our kids were so much older at that point than everybody our age. Our age had little bitty ones.
Yeah.
But we were already in junior high,
Yeah.
And so we went to the adult class that had some more, about 10 to 15 years older than us, and realized there's 3 other families in this class alone that have adopted kids. And they were older than us, but some of their kids were even younger than ours, or some of theirs was a little older. And that was our connection. And so when you got all of our families together, you want to talk about a hodgepodge looking group.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had black, white, we had every Hispanic, we had all colors, because we had white families adopting black kids. We had all, and it was so cool because we all got each other from the aspect of adoption.
Wow.
The kids bonded together. I remember even the kids having conversations we overheard, talking to each other about being adopted and what that was like for each other.
Wow.
But then us adults and us parents were able to also talk about our struggles and so forth. But I think some of that was so eye-opening to me, and what Jennifer's saying about race and colors of skin and all those kinds of things went out the window with that group.
Yeah.
Because we were so diverse from that aspect.
Yeah.
And yet all dealing with some of the same stuff.
Yeah.
You
So here God has provided you with a community.
Yes.
Wow.
For sure there.
Through that community, we formed a small nonprofit. It was called the Story Project while we were there. And what we did is we had, maybe weekly or bi-weekly meetings, I can't remember. And we invited people from the community or anywhere that had adopted families that just needed a place to talk about it.
Wow.
And so we would have different speakers. We'd have CPS come in and speak to us, and other adoption agencies and other people that were equipped with, teaching material to help through difficult times,
Right.
kids' questions and things like that. So it was a great space. We would go once a year to a family camp out, and we'd all go and
awesome.
just spend the weekend having fun and letting the kids play and doing all that. But that group became closer and closer, and yeah, God provided a big community.
And
there.
it grew. I want to say there was 5 or 6 families by the time we left Houston
Yeah.
in 3 years.
Wow.
All had adopted, all had bonded that way. And man, I'm telling you, you talk about a hodgepodge looking group. It was a hodgepodge looking group.
For God provided.
Mm-hmm.
Jehovah Jireh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things I have, and it's weird. Well, I don't want to say it's weird, but it's just interesting what God allows human beings to be able to do with our kids. We have a spectrum of skin color with our kids, like, you know, and each daughter, and this is why I hate social media for that age, and I don't let them have it until they get older. But they see this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful. And then, you know, they're training themselves to see beauty in that way. And one thing with my third oldest, you know, she thinks about her skin color and and she's darker. And did y'all ever have those conversations come up? And if so, how did you deal with that? And how difficult was that to deal with?
I think our daughter had a really difficult time. Her hair was very curly, and that set her apart from other people.
Yep.
And, you know, it was brown and blonde, and it was beautiful to me.
Yeah.
And it was difficult to manage, you know. I didn't know how to do her hair, and so I had to learn, and I had to talk to other people of color to help me.
Well, even our first two little kids
Yeah, a
were
teacher's
African
aide
American.
told me,
Yeah.
you're gonna make him have ingrown hair or something because
Yeah.
he wasn't brushing it right, and I didn't know that. And so she pulled me aside and showed me how to do it, showed me what brushes to use and things like that. And so I was helped a lot that way. But our daughter, she struggled a lot with, you know, looking different and being different sometimes. I don't know how well we handled it other than to just try to encourage her that she was beautiful in her own way, and that, you know, everybody, you know, God made every person different. If you look around, and every single person has something different about them.
Yep.
And, you know, you can embrace that as, you know, beautiful, or you can take it down a negative path. But I think that, you know, she started to embrace her looks, and that her looks made her unique, and but it was a challenge.
Yeah. So what years was that?
Waited in-
2012.
Yeah, I was going to say 12, 13.
Okay. So that was right around the time it started getting, because there was like a transition shift. Whenever I was in school, all the girls were getting perms and straightening their hair out. But now we got the natural thing. And man, that has made it so much easier, because it's like, first off, now they don't have to go somewhere and sit for hours upon hours in order. The expense. Well, braids are still expensive.
Right.
They do still, like, that's still a thing. Braids are still expensive, but the expense of all the other stuff. And now they can just, like, my second oldest, she's rocking her afro the first 2 weeks of school. And I'm just like, I'm glad that that's there.
This was before that, because we tried.
That wasn't a
so
good
hard
thing?
No, we tried to convince her that. She's like, no, I'm not doing that.
It was taboo.
It was taboo.
Nobody did it.
And she could have done it, and it could have been stunning.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
And it's a great look, you know, but it wasn't in that time.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. And so it was just like a cultural thing. And so she probably sees that and is like, oh no, the other girls don't do that.
That's right.
They have straight hair, and
That's tough. That's tough to deal with. And I know another thing that I was going to ask you guys about, because I know she had two sons. I was talking to a preacher friend, and he's a white minister, and, you know, just having a random conversation about being pulled over. And I was just telling him, I was like, yeah, whenever I was young, you know, my dad, we had to talk, and he told me, this is what you do when you get pulled over. And he was like, what? I was like, what talk? And he did not know what he didn't know what I was talking about when I was talking about the talk. And so what my dad told me, he was like, hey, you need to make sure that you don't make such movements, right? Keep your hands on the steering wheel, be respectful. Cause he's like, for me, I think it was a thing of, we want to make sure you get home. Cause that's in the back of his mind, because of, again, mores and worldviews and cultures and the generation that he grew up in. You teach, you know, they were really rough on their children, because it's like, you have to, or you might not come back home
again.
Yeah, you might not see him again. Did that ever come up, and did the talk exist?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know that was a thing until I met Thurman.
Yeah.
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 That's true.
And so our kids were already in college, and I felt bad about that because it's something I probably should have said. Our kids were mistaken more often for Hispanic than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Their mother was half black, half white. And so they're 1/4 African American.
Yeah.
Right. So the boys for sure, I don't know if you would even guess that they have any black in them.
Yeah.
But our daughter for sure you did.
Yeah.
I think you could tell for sure. Her hair for sure.
Yeah.
It was an
I
immediate.
think you can tell with the boys, but our youngest always says people always ask him if he's Hispanic.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt bad because I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thurman told me one time, he was telling me about the talk
Yes.
he was going to have with his boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the talk? And
Yeah.
he told me the same thing. The same
Well, and it was during our race class really that
Yeah.
it came up
Yeah.
at Belt Church.
Yeah. See, that's in my mind. I was like, everybody has to talk,
Yeah. No.
but it wasn't, and I was blind to it as well, and I didn't find out. I'm guessing I'm in my 30s when I had that conversation because I was just like, I thought this was a thing that everybody did, but it's not. And so I was thinking about that as well. What do you think society often misunderstands about adoption and interracial families? Because I know you've mentioned Quentin about the looks, but I had a conversation with another friend who married a woman who had mixed race children, and he talked about that.
I think it's getting more and more normalized.
Yeah.
I do, because you go anywhere and you're going to start, it seems that compared to say 30 years ago, you didn't see biracial children very often,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Think about how much that's changed in just 30 years. I'm
Yeah.
only 48, but I can remember when I was 18 till now, biracial children, it seemed like if you went to one of the high schools right now, you would see biracial
Yep.
children everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's, in some ways, I think it's getting normalized from that perspective a little bit. Now, I think if you were a biracial child, though, and I know that this is how our daughter felt, is she still felt, she's not that old, she's in her 20s right
Yeah.
now. I think she still felt very different.
Yeah.
You know, her skin tone, hair for sure, all these things. Like, I'm in between. Like, I don't know that I fit with either side
Yeah.
in some ways, I think.
I get that.
What I noticed in the very beginning, our first two kids were black, and we were in Belton. And Belton is, or was, I don't know what it is now, but primarily white.
Yeah, it still is.
And so initially walking into places, I as a white person had never felt that before, the looks, and especially from older men, just old timers, they kind of just look at you like, I don't know, but I felt it. And then I started realizing the racial, I just got a tiny taste, I guess, of
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what people of color experience sometimes,
Yeah.
and that was a tiny taste. But then as life went on, I think the misunderstanding is sometimes that it will be just glorious and great, and there won't be these feelings of difference. And there is.
Well,
It's present.
so there was a time his name was Keon, right? And I took Keon to McCoy's with me in Belton. This would have been in 2004. And he was 5 years old. And he's black, I'm white. And he got away from me, not very far. I could see him, but he was overlooking at something on the end of an aisle, and I was a little ways away from him. And from day one, Keon and Alyssa called me and Jennifer mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
From day one. We're white, they're not. But it didn't matter to them. They didn't see that. And it's funny too how little children, they don't see black
Nope.
and white at all.
Nope.
Nothing. And so he starts yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, look at this." And I'm telling you, the old timers in their overalls over there at McCoy's looking around, whose little black kid is this? Because they saw nobody else in that store that this kid matched up with.
Yeah.
And so they didn't say anything. It's just, I could tell, I
Yeah.
could sense that. It was like, something, whose kid is this? You
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah, I felt that.
I get that. And that you do still experience. Well, I do still experience that, but it's just in smaller pockets now.
Yeah.
I got it more whenever I was younger. The city that I live in, Temple, I don't see it as much. And whenever I go to other places, like I just preached in Salado, you know,
Yeah.
I go in places over there, especially that cool area and where they have everybody's driving the golf carts. Yeah. It's like,
Mill Creek.
yeah. It's like, yeah.
But I'll say on the opposite side, Jennifer and I have gotten to experience this from the opposite side, though,
Yeah.
singing with our singing group.
Uh-huh.
We sing with Terry and Thurman. And so Jennifer and I've been in churches where we're the only white couple
Yep.
in probably 400 people, and we're the only white ones in the whole house.
Yeah.
And so it's given me a whole new appreciation and perspective
Yeah.
of being in a house full of people, and my wife and I are the only white ones here.
Yeah.
And but when you get up and you start singing with Terry Mays and Thurman Metters,
All that just goes
it
away.
all goes away
Yeah.
because, like, okay, well, if they're gonna go, they're gonna go with the top,
Uh-huh.
you know, and it's like an immediate, okay, they're all right,
Yeah.
you know, and now that we've gone to 2 or 3, 4 different places, some of the same people have been at all of those, and they see me again. Now there's almost, oh yeah, you were at such and such, you
Yep.
know, you were there and all that kind of stuff. And so we have loved that.
Yeah.
Being in a different culture altogether,
Yeah.
atmosphere, we have absolutely loved that.
Yeah. It's like she said, taking a step.
Mhm.
Once you take the step, all of a sudden it's not as scary as what you thought it'd
It's
be.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. And it's been wonderful, but it's also given us perspective
Yeah. Yeah.
and
One,
appreciation.
this just made me think of one of my most favorite horror movies, Jordan Peele, Get Out. I think he does an excellent job of. Now, I think this is what he's saying there in the movie. I don't know if it is. I think that it is. I think I read an article where it was. But when I watched it and the guy falls into the sunken place, it's like that's how it feels at time as a person of color. It's like I'm in this place where I have no control. I'm screaming out loud, you know, and nobody can hear me. And that's present at times. But man, does it change when you have Jesus, you know? And I didn't really get into that mental space until later, probably mid-20s, to where I started, I'm going to use a term that people don't agree with, but I started identifying as Christian first. You know, I didn't identify as a furry or anything, but
right.
I identified as Christian first because I'm just like, man, I could choose to focus on the negative things in the walls that humanity have put up, or I could focus on my identity in Christ. And yes, I am still presented with my race and being a man, even because that's under attack here in our culture right now as well. But Christ first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the bond, that we have seen going, you know, during our singings too, is that we have the bond of Christ.
Yeah, most
And
definitely.
That's huge. So.
Yeah. So now we've seen how the world tells one story, but God tells another. And faith, it grows when we practice it. Let's get to work in our final segment of this show. Discipleship isn't just what we believe, it's how we live. Welcome to Training in Righteousness, where faith meets discipline. Give us some wisdom, Pastor.
So some of this is very recent, Chris.
Okay.
Some of this, so one, I'm a singer,
Yes.
just like you, right?
Yes, he is.
I love
no, not like
singing.
me. He's a real singer.
I love to sing. And something I shared with our praise team, this is us last week, is, you know, if you're a singer, God gave you a voice, but it's not just for you.
Amen.
It's for his glory, right? So you got to share your talent. You got to share whatever your talent is. Mine happens to be singing, one of them, right? Whatever your talent is, share that for his glory, right? If that's listening, listen well.
Yeah.
Right. If it's visiting somebody, do that well. If it's texting, text people,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so we all have talents. Jennifer has the talent of cooking, and she makes amazing food for people all the time. She shares her
Amen.
talent, right? Share your talent. Number two, these two next ones have been very recent. I have been through a lot of health issues this last year and a half. I've been under anesthesia 9 times in the last year and a half with multiple surgeries, prostate cancer, prostate removed, all that kind of stuff. I'm 48 now,
Yeah.
right? And I am just now, doctors have just they've let go of the reins on me for the first time in a year and a half. I've been able to exercise on my own,
Right.
not in physical therapy.
Right.
So getting in the gym, lifting weights, walking. I am walking every single morning. I get up and walk, and I have been listening to books left and right. And boy, I am going through them, and I'm just absorbing that stuff like a sponge. And I think that that's something I have never done well, never done a lot of. Just, I don't know, maybe I'm not wired that way, but I am loving it right now.
Right.
And so many subjects, all these things are going through my mind. Well, what has somebody said about this? What has somebody written about listening?
Yeah.
I don't listen well. I just listened to a book by Michael Sorensen called I Hear You.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. Every 18-year-old should read this book
Yeah.
because this is like life skills for the rest of your life if you will learn how to do this stuff.
I might check that out.
Oh, great book. I
Yeah.
just finished it. I just
Okay.
ordered a copy so that I can take notes and highlight in it because it's that good
Yeah.
to me.
Okay.
This is another big one though that I've done starting, I guess, only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. One of the practices that our church has now put into place in our new mission we've thrown out there. It's the first one on the list. It's being still and quiet in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And in 2025, we don't do that enough.
Nope.
We got phones, we got TV, we got the radio in the car, all these things. It's constant bombardment of noise and things to look at and all that kind of stuff. How often do we sit in stillness and be quiet
Yeah.
in the presence of God? So I decided a couple Mondays ago, how do I do that and do that well? So I got up. I've been getting up earlier, 5:30 a.m. I go and sit on that back patio right there, and I get my cup of coffee, and it is blazing hot. I drink my coffee black, and I go and sit out there, and I put my phone down. I don't look at my watch. My timer is that cup of coffee. While I'm drinking that cup of coffee, I'm sitting there in silence outside, listening to the birds wake up in pitch dark.
Yeah.
And on day one, I started getting all of this, my thoughts coming into my head.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the full moon at that time, full moon, I'm like, wow, I'm so tiny in this universe. God can create a moon. He can create the hummingbird. He can create all these other things. Why did he create me? What's my purpose? Right? So it's big questions like that are coming through my head. And so I don't know that I have the answers for some of those right now, right? But it's big questions.
Yeah.
And people's names have come into my head, right? Day one, I went straight to Staples and I got myself a journal. I was like, I need to start writing this down.
Right.
So every day I've written down. Now I don't do it during the time I'm drinking coffee. I am only drinking coffee in the dark. I will only write after I finish the cup of coffee. I get my journal out and I write down what I've thought.
Yeah.
And man, some really cool stuff is coming out of that.
Yeah.
And it sets my day right. Like I feel more in tune with God. I feel I don't know, my mindset is so much better when I've done that. And I don't sit still well.
Yeah.
I'm a busy guy. You know,
It's hard.
It is hard.
It's what our culture
Everybody.
is.
That's
Just
exactly
noise.
right. It's noise.
Yeah.
So much. And so much so that Jennifer even said, was it yesterday or day before? She's like, I got to figure out when I can have my alone time with God like you're doing.
Yeah.
I started this morning.
Yep.
It's pleasant. It's pleasant.
It is.
I had the opportunity. I was taking my BB Gatson, a minister friend,
Mm-hmm.
someone I looked up to. Yeah. And he took me out to this place called Leb Shemaiah, which is in Hebrew, listening heart. And it was this big piece of land, like a ranch, and they had these cabins on it with lots of people, but nobody speaks.
Oh, wow.
Everybody stays silent the whole time. And that was the first time I engaged in that. And it was so awkward, but it's worth it.
Wow.
It is worth it. Like, the silence is deafening at first, but it is worth it to just sit and be in the presence of God and just watch what he says. And he'll speak, like, through the birds, through the moon. I know I'm probably sounding like a hippie or
So
something.
I don't have it in front of me, but this morning, I live in town in North Belton. I live in town, so I can hear the train from where I'm at. I can hear traffic still at 5:30 a.m. And every morning I notice, so I can hear the normal birds I'm normally used to, but I kind of grew up in the country. And so I've noticed every morning, like at 5:30, there's a bobwhite quail somewhere around here
Yeah.
that is making this little noise. And I knew what that was because usually quail are out in the country, not in town.
Right.
Like, where is this quail at in town? And so in my head, I'm thinking, this quail is just saying, hey, I'm here, right? And yet I live in the neighborhood of my church is only about 5 blocks away. And one of the mission things we've been talking about is how do we get out into our neighborhood directly around this church building and have influence in our community to our neighbors. How many of our neighbors sit right here like that bobwhite quail and say, I'm here, and we're not paying attention to it. We don't even recognize them.
Yeah.
And so then my mind starts going with all that train of thought. And then, how many gas station attendants or cashiers or waitresses do I right here in this neighborhood am I with every day that I don't recognize, that I don't acknowledge because I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
And so it's funny little things like that. At only 5:30 in the morning in the dark, or you're going to hear a bobwhite quail in the middle of town, and then your mind starts going there.
Yeah.
Right? That's God.
Yes, it is. And that's our episode for today. I hope that you enjoyed listening to us. I do want to plug both of our listeners as they have a lot going on. We've talked about it already, but I want to plug what the Locklins are doing and how they are being light emitting disciples in our world today. And so we'll have ladies first. If you had to share anything about what it is that you're doing, and I don't know if you see it as this way, but you're cooking, like you talked about with the gifts. How can people access that? Tell them about what you're doing and how they can support you.
I write a food blog. I've written it since 2009, jennifercooks.com. There's hundreds of recipes there. I believe that recipes tell the story of families, and I want to preserve those. So that's what you'll find there. You'll find some more modern recipes, but you'll also find a lot of old ones that may not have been written down. And you can also find me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, Jennifer Cooks.
All right.
Well, something we haven't mentioned here, but Jennifer and I are both real estate agents. That's
Yes.
what we do, right?
Yes.
And so, we've done this for 12 years, and it's been a blessing to us. But I have opportunities every day with people that I work with to minister to, get them in the right frame of mind from the crisis of we're not closing tomorrow like we thought, and deal fell through and all those kinds of things. But I specialize with seniors specifically, so that if they need to move into a retirement community, they need to sell their house. I deal with a lot of hard family situations like that as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's what we do for a living is that. So we're the Locklin team with Keller Williams here in Belton, Temple area, and kind of cover all the Central Texas area. So
Awesome. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
you're very welcome.
Thanks for hanging out with me today on the LED podcast. I hope that it blessed you. Want to stay connected and shine even brighter? Visit BeLED.org for free Bible studies and links to all my socials and merch. Keep shining and step into the light and be led.
Light emitted disciples, we LED by Christ. Tune in, y'all, we shining so bright. C.W. Stevens, he the host with the vision, bringing truth and light. Let's complete the mission. Light emitting disciples, we LED.